All right. So I'm sure all of you have heard of MASAR, so I won't go too much into detail about what MASAR is. But just some background on MASAR. MASAR, of course, means path or trajectory in Arabic. So the intent of MASAR is to help steer the PNCB practitioners on the right path for monitoring, measurement, and evaluation, because that's one of the challenges that we face as practitioners. MASAR itself is based on a framework that we have developed, a sort of step-by-step process for how to monitor, measure, and evaluate ECD programs, and the title of the publication is listed there and available on our website. And so as the slide says, it kind of encapsulates those steps in the step-by-step guidance. It's not a magic app. It doesn't do the monitoring and evaluation for you, but it does give you some suggestions along the way that might help you better develop a plan for monitoring, measurement, and evaluation. And I should also mention that the first round of MASAR, so phase 1 of MASAR, which was launched in August 2018, was done in collaboration with the Royal United Services Institute, RUSI, in the UK, and it was sponsored by the Government of Canada. And then the updated version, phase 2 of MASAR that was just released, was sponsored by the UK, Australia, and Spain. So we're very grateful for our partner support and also, of course, the donor support for this project. These are some of the core features of MASAR. So MASAR is intuitive. If you give it appropriate information, it can help make tailored recommendations for your project. Resourceful, so there's a huge body of research and resources already available on this subject. So MASAR tries to collate some of that existing research and provides access to that research on a regular basis. Collaborative is an opportunity to test and share resources with each other. It's also export ready, so any of the material that you put into MASAR, you can also export it in a PDF, copy paste it into reports for later. And then some of the new features, the main functions of MASAR are now available in Arabic and in light and dark mode. So we will go through most of this in much more detail later. So we'll get the sense of this, but just going into a bit more detail of the specific features, MASAR does help you understand the basic framework for monitoring, measurement, and evaluation, analyze the context of your PCB program, put in that information about your own program in the app for storage, write and develop a theory of change and theory of change statement, develop a plan for monitoring, measurement, and evaluation, suggest links to existing research and resources based on the information you get it, and then finally generate indicators that are tailored to your program in our new feature, which is the indicator generator. In terms of some of the resources, we have a master library with some of the relevant recent research on monitoring, measurement, and evaluation for CVE. We also have a glossary of key terms, and so I'll show you where you can find that in just a minute. We also have a section on case studies, which are examples of how existing CVE programs are filled out in the form of MASAR based on open source research and information. So again, there's a feature of chatting with your team members in the same organization and in the same project, as well as sharing resources with other members of your organization. As I mentioned, you can, of course, export all of that into a nice clean report in the end. Here's just some screenshots of the Arabic version of MASAR, as well as in light and dark mode. And then just to feature our indicator generator and indicator database. So we leveraged the indicator bank that was developed by UNDP for PVE indicators. And we added to that and expanded on that. And so now we have a data bank of over, I think, 200 indicators of existing programs that you can use as inspiration and also use if relevant for your own CVE project. So that, again, is just a brief overview. There's our donors there at the bottom. And so hold on for a second, and I will shift to the screencast so that we can go through exactly how to use MASAR. So hopefully you can now see my phone screen here. So hopefully all of you have downloaded MASAR. If you haven't, please visit the Google Play or Apple Store to do so. When you first download the app, you'll see this screen. And of course, if you don't have an account, you need to click sign up. If you want, or if you have a team of people, it's good to collaborate on the same organization. So one person should start the organization, create an organization, and then share the code with others in the same organization. If you have a big organization, like an international organization, it's actually recommended that you kind of just have your own organization for a small group of people, a small team, because everybody can edit the project at the same time. So to try to do that with more than about 5 or 6 people could be a little bit complicated. If you would like to kind of follow along with me, I'm going to put in the chat an organizational code. So it's A0UNST, and that's the organizational code for this particular, we have like a MASAR training organization. So you can fill in that code and you can create your own organization later. Or you can go ahead and create your own organization now and create your own account and sign up. So there's a 2-step process after you create your organization. I'm not going to do it because I actually already have the login details, of course. So I will go ahead and log in to MASAR. So when you first enter the MASAR, if you don't have a project yet, so if you're a brand new organization, this home screen is actually going to be blank. So one of the most important steps is that you know how to create a new project, because without creating a new project, it's hard to see the tutorials of MASAR. So in the top right corner, you have a little plus sign, and you can click on that, and it gives you the option to either join a project or add a new project. So again, if you already have your organization, if you would actually like to join this particular project that we're working on right now, which is the CD project training, I'm going to again put a different code, and you can enter that there, XBG2TA, all caps for those letters, and feel free to join the project as well. And if you have any issues with that, please let me know. One thing that I should point out is that if something is not showing up, if you've created a new project and it's not showing up on your list, just pull down on the screen and let it refresh, and it should pop up right away. It's something that is relatively intuitive for people that use apps all the time, but if you're not used to using apps, it may not be something that you think of. So from here, we're just going to go ahead. Actually, I'm going to cover a couple of sort of admin things before we get started on the project. On the right bottom corner, you have settings. This is important because, again, here you can join certain organizations. So if you want to enter that organizational code that I mentioned, you can also choose the app language. So you can choose between English and Arabic. There's a section that gives you a little bit more information about MASAR, including its development and its donors. You can access the desktop version from here. There's a list of video tutorials that will take you to MASAR's YouTube channel that gives you some more information on how to use MASAR. So if you're confused, you can always go here, and there's some more information there. Some other resources related to monitoring and evaluation are also there. So the terms and conditions of privacy statement, so oftentimes we get questions on, where the data is stored and what are the terms and conditions. Those are available on this page. And at the same time, you can also contact us. So that will link you to the MASAR at Hedayah.ae email address. And if you have any issues, please feel free to reach out to us. So I'll go back to the project screen. So from the project screen, once you started a new project, you can, of course, click on the project. So when you first click on a project, you have all of this is sort of the home screen for the project. And from here, you can run through the different steps that are needed for monitoring, measurement, and evaluation. So we're going to go ahead and start with the basics, and it kind of guides you through at every step of the way, different components. So, of course, you can fill in information necessary here. This is a hypothetical project in Jordan. You can add, the dates, location, the type of program. So we chose for this particular one for the prison sector. We have 30 recipients of the program, ages 30 to 65. They're prison officials, both genders, and then the ultimate target population is related to that are prisoners. So you'll see how that's related in a second. Yeah. I think somebody might have their microphone on in the background. If you have a question, feel free to jump in at any time, but otherwise, if you could please put your microphone on mute, that would be great. So then there's a section on stakeholders. When you click on one of the options of stakeholders, it also pops up with some questions. So you can fill out why you feel that stakeholder is relevant for your particular project, writing in your information here. So these are examples of some of the guiding questions that are part of MASAR that are not necessarily required to fill out, but the more you think through these questions, the more you're able to articulate your monitoring and evaluation. Very importantly, when you reach the end, make sure you click save before you click next. And you'll notice in the bottom menu under chat, because I changed some of the information, there is a notification. So I can go to the chat, and I will have noticed that Hedayah, MASAR is recommending to Hedayah that there's some certain resources in the library that would be potentially useful for my program. So I can go through those resources and read more about them. So back to the project. So save next. So, of course, the next section is on developing a theory of change. So for this, we really walk you through kind of taking a look at your context, looking at push-and-pull factors, looking at whether or not your program is, undermining risk or building resilience against violent extremism, and then finally how to draft your actual theory of change statement. At any time, sometimes in these prompts, the words are highlighted. And so when you click on one of the highlighted words, it will take you to a further explanation. And this is a pretty comprehensive one just because theory of change is a bit complicated. So you can see that there's a couple of sources that are useful, as well as an explanation of what is a theory of change. At any time in the tutorial, in the top right corner, there's also this icon that will take you to the glossary. So if there's a confusing term, even if it isn't highlighted, it might be in the glossary, and you can check it and find out more about that particular term. If you have suggestions for terms to add to the glossary, also please send us an email, and we can add those for you as necessary. So I will kind of quickly jump through. So again, for each of these sections, there's a set of guiding questions that as you're thinking about developing a theory of change, what are sort of the considerations that you should have for your program leading up to that final theory of change statement. So in this particular case, what is the political, social, economic atmosphere? It gives you some links to existing resources. Once you put in the information, click save and then click next. You can also put in information about push factors and pull factors. Again, anytime there's a highlighted word, you can click on it and it will take you to an explanation of that definition. So here, again, you can list out your push and pull factors. I'm not going to do that a lot of times. Click save and then hit next. Again, risk resilience, it gives you an explanation. You get to click either one or both, and then answer the guiding questions. Save next. Finally, the actual writing of a theory of change statement. So, thinking about your ultimate vision for your program. This particular one is if prison officials are knowledgeable about drivers of radicalization, and prison officials apply their knowledge on interaction with prisoners. I'm not sure why these are repeated right now, but they are. Then prisoners will be less likely to be recruited to violent extremism in prisons because prisoners will be identified early as vulnerable and interventions will be put into place. So that being said, the next section is on the goals and objectives. So when you first enter the section, it'll be blank and you can add a goal. So for this one so far, we've added 2 goals. So these are sort of the 2 goals that we decided for this particular, again, program on CVE. So at every stage, again, make sure you're hitting save before you click next. I also should point out that you can add sub-goals to this particular section. And the reason for that is sometimes, donors will give us sort of overarching goals that are not really that achievable. So one way that we can think about making the goals more achievable is to break them down into smaller components. So if you have an overarching goal that maybe isn't so achievable or that is not so easy to set indicators, you can have a sub-goal that then relates to that goal and that is broken down and maybe also uses smart objectives related to that goal. So the next section, I will actually hand it over to Farngees, who will explain the next couple of sections.
Great, thank you, Sarah. Right, so I will take you through a couple of next steps, and the first step would be activities. So after you have filled out your goals and objectives, you would want to write out all the activities that you're planning to carry out for this specific project. So as you can see, we have already a couple of activities filled out here, but in case you need to remove them, you will just need to click on the pink remove button. You can scroll down and you will see, initially what you will see is this add activity button when you do not have any activities. When you click on it, you will be asked to write out an activity name, following which you will also then be asked to write down the description of this activity. What's great about MASAR is that you can always come back to it and you can actually write down any progress that you have made on this specific activity, or you can edit it and if you needed to change something about the activity. Scrolling down, you will see that there are also some questions to consider. This again, there's some questions that MASAR will prompt for you to think about, just to make sure that you're actually thinking through all the logical steps when you're planning out your activities. You can also add a question. You will see on the bottom there is an add a question option, and that can also be done for instance, if you're sharing the project with other colleagues and you want them to fill out certain additional questions, then they can do so. Again, very important to click save before you move to the next section. So next, after we have identified our goals in step 3 and then written out all of our activities, we will then need to match them. As you can see, MASAR reminds you of the theory of change statements of your project. Again, so it really takes you through, it brings out any points that you might think about when you're writing out any part of this section. So in this case, it's the theory of change statement. After that, you can see that there's a short instruction on what you should be doing on below. So what you would need to do to actually match your goals and sub-goals to specific activities, what you will need to do is click on the goal, and after that you see already that we're selected, but then you would ideally select the activity that relates specifically to the given goal. And once you scroll further down, what you will see MASAR has done is basically it has created a cluster for the sub-goal and the activity connected. But MASAR will still ask you a question of how does this activity, specifically the one you've chosen, relate to the given goal. What's also interesting is that, again, while you're going through this step, if you realize that you're missing a goal or an activity, you can edit goal or activity. And what MASAR will do, it will take you back to the step of activities, where you can either remove, edit, or add additional activities. Again, so important to click save before you move forward. And once you're done with matching your goals and activities, the next step for you would be to click on next, and it will go to indicators. So MASAR gives you a short overview of what an indicator is, explaining that, it describes how will you measure your change, and that MASAR and that the indicator can be qualitative measures or quantitative measures, as well as this section is where you can actually write out and capture the baseline for the specific indicator before the change occurs. You can click on the blue bold out items in the previous part. It will take you directly to the glossary items. So if you need more information, if you're not sure what an indicator is, there is an explanation. So once we go back and we start on our step on indicators, again, MASAR gives you an instruction on what you will need to do, and here tap on goal or sub-goal below to set the relevant indicator. Once you click on the goal, you will see that below it will ask you to identify a measure or an indicator, as well as write out a baseline if applicable. You can create new indicators or remove an indicator, but what's actually interesting, and this is actually a new feature about MASAR, is that we have added an indicator generator. So, for instance, if you, sorry, if you can call up, yeah. So as you can see, we're just going to go in a second into indicator generator. But before we do, I just want to explain to you that you can also will then be able to use an indicator generator in case you have issues with coming up with measures. But before we do that, again, MASAR asks you a couple of questions, just making sure that your indicators are really, specific, they're goal-oriented, and that if you scroll down, further down, so you'll see there are a couple of questions that MASAR can ask just relating to your indicators. So once you click Save and Next on this page, you will be taken to the indicator generator. Our indicator generator heavily relies on the UNDP PV indicator generator and indicator bank, and basically what it has is like a list of different indicators that UNDP has put in, together, and there are some additional indicators that were added from the MASAR developing team. So once you click Start, again, this is very similar to what happened for other sections. For instance, when you put in the information in your basics, MASAR straight away makes some suggestions to you, and for the indicator generator specifically, what it does is it already filters out through certain items and makes suggestions on what indicators you might be interested in. However, if you simply want to see more additional ones, or this is not entirely the indicator that will fit you and you want to browse through more, you can click on Filter, and you can filter out through any additional points, or you can clear all the filters and it will show you all the indicators in this indicator generator. Now, you can browse through them, and for instance, if you click on either one of them, you will see that there is additional information on this specific indicator, to what type of program it actually relates to, and even a reference. Now, if you see that this indicator is suitable for specifically your project or specific goal, what you would then do is click on Use this indicator. Once you do that, there will be a list of different goals that you have identified in previous sections, and once you select a goal, it will then link the specific indicator to it. So, for instance, if you go back to the indicator step, you will see now that it has been updated. Your specific goal that you have chosen has been updated with the given indicator. Now you can update it accordingly, you can edit it if needed. Again, of course, updating the baseline and so on. So again, important to click Save, and then moving on to the next section. And over to you, Sarah. Thank you.
Thanks, Randy. So the next couple of sections are mostly guiding questions, so there's not so much more interactivity until we get to the capturing results section. But we think it's important, of course, to identify in these next stages the type of collection methods that you're using. So again, if you're confused about certain collection methods, MASAR gives you some examples in the description, so you can click on the link there. And then again, it gives you a list of guiding questions that you can easily fill out related to the collection methods for your program. One of the important things to do is evaluate if those collection methods are actually realistic related to your goals and indicators. So if you feel that they're not, you can again return to your goals and activities or return to your indicators and reframe and rework them so that the collection methods that you're using are actually useful. So again, as you go along, hit save and then hit next. And then of course there's a number of resources that all organizations have related to monitoring, measurement, and evaluation. And I should say, caveat, that this is specifically related to monitoring, measurement, and evaluation. It's not resources writ large. But some of those, of course, there's an overlap. So again, with the glossary library or glossary items, if you don't understand what we mean by a certain term, you can click on the glossary item. And then again, there's a number, you can add the resources that you have available so that you're kind of taking stock of the resources that you have. And then what are the limitations? Who's responsible? Does that person have the knowledge? And do you have sufficient resources? And again, as a reminder, you can always go back to some of the previous steps if you feel that you don't have sufficient resources to actually conduct your monitoring, measurement, evaluation. So again, as always, hitting save and then going to the next. This next part is where the app actually asks what happened? What happened with your program? So again, beginning with some guiding questions on how to analyze your results, and then breaking it down by goal. So in this case, we have two different goals. Each goal has a couple of indicators. So this particular goal has two indicators. And when you are importing your results, clicking whether or not it's qualitative, if it's outcomes, output, or impact, and there's descriptions of those in the glossary, and also qualitative or quantitative. And then putting in your actual results and then an evaluation of what those results are. So you might have, wanted for, let's say, 70% of the prison officials to correctly identify signs of radicalization, and you get 75. So in your evaluating results, you can say something along the lines of, we reached our target for this particular indicator. And you can do that for both goals, and you'll notice that even the indicators that we chose from the indicator generator also show up on this list. So this next section is the results display, and it's actually only available on the desktop version, and that's partially just because it's taking all the information that you put in the capturing results section and displaying it in a more simplified form. And so anytime you can, of course, in the app itself, review your results in the capturing results section. But if you want it in a little bit more organized fashion, you can go to the desktop version. So from here, I'm actually going to hand back over to Zangi, who's going to give you a short demonstration of the desktop version. So I have to disconnect my phone, and then I think she will connect to her computer.
Not yet, sir.
Not yet?
No, not yet.
You want to go, sorry, I forgot the library and the library and the
Yes. So before we move on to the desktop version, I just wanted to go through with you the library. So the library feature, Sarah touched upon it a little bit in the very beginning of her presentation, but just to demonstrate it to you, as you can see, the library is divided mainly into resources and case studies. So in the resources, you can either browse through it, or so right now you see on the bottom it says showing all. So you can either browse through it as you go, or you can filter it by just clicking that same button and filtering it according to tags, sections, or so on. So for instance, if you click CV as a tag to save it, it will then give you all the resources that were tagged with CV. And this is a list of resources that is specifically looking into any kind of resources that are talking about monitoring, measurement, and evaluation for PCD programs. So if you click on any of these resources, what you can do is you can either go to the resource and it will take you straight to the resource online. So you need to be connected to internet for this, of course. Or you can also share it. So on the if you can go back, as you can see, so on the top right corner you have two icons. One of them from the left is a share button. So if you click on that, you will be able to share this resource with anyone that's actually under the same organization or project. Or you can also click on the tick, which will then save it into your reading list. You can also add it to your project, but once you go through the resources. So so as you can see, you can add it to your project. So the other part of the resource is the case study. And the case studies is also one of the new features that we've added to MASAR. We actually expanded it further. We had one case study, I believe, when we just launched MASAR in 2018. So what we have done is basically use existing programs and we have adapted the information that we were provided from the report onto MASAR's interface and MASAR's framework. So if you could click on any of these case studies, you'll see that it's presented to you in a similar fashion as any of the other of your projects. So this is the reason for this is just for you to have a case study to refer to, whether it's if you need more MASAR, or you need some inspiration, or just to get a little bit more information on what other projects have been potentially implemented in the same region where you're planning to have your project. So as you can see, it goes exactly through the same sort of steps. And I would just like to highlight that, of course, as I already mentioned, but MASAR, the case studies that are presented in front of you are based on the information that we could gather from the report. This is not perfect information. There might be, if you are an owner of any of these projects, you might find that some information is missing. But again, this is purely for demonstration and reference for users. Now, also, you will have a reading list. As I said before, usually it would show up any of the reading that you have saved from the resources. There is an issue with it at the moment, but we are working to resolve it. Okay, so we think that's pretty much it on this part. So at least on the app, we can move on to the desktop version. So for the desktop version, you can access it. You will find the web address on the application as well, but it's basically secure.masar.tech, and you'll be asked to, of course, log in using your credentials. After that, this is the page that you will be presented with. You can see there on the left side, you have user management, master library, and projects. User management, if you are the admin of the account, you may remove some users. So, for instance, if any of your colleagues have left the organization and no longer part of it, then you can always remove them from here. Master library will take you to the same resources. So just you need to give it sometimes a minute to load. And then you have projects. So you can see here, you have all the projects that I myself am signed up to. But the one that we are working on today is this first one up here. So what you will do is you will click on this drop-down menu, and you will see there are a couple of options that you can click on. To edit your project, you will need to click on the first one, and what this will do is it will take you basically the same steps that you will see on the MASAR app, but just on a desktop version. You can also use the desktop version to actually create your project and input the information if that's more easier for you. But just we thought that, having it as an app on your phone may be easier just because it's more handy and, if you just need to do something on the go, it will be easier for you to do it on your phone. So as you can see, it actually has basically the same information that we have inputted into the app version of it on the phone. And if you scroll down, you will see all the rest of the steps. Now, the step that we are after to demonstrate to you is the results display, because as you remember, results display is the one step that's actually only available for the desktop version. So as Sarah mentioned, the results display is literally, because it's more readable on a desktop, it just displays all the information that you have entered on your, specifically relating to your results on the desktop, and it helps you to analyze results, and if you need to extract some of this information for any specific visualization of data, you can do so. Of course, if we had more information written out, it would be longer, and you would be able to you would need to scroll further down. Now, the other part that, the other step I would want you to learn how to do is basically how to download the PDF. Again, as Sarah mentioned in the beginning of the presentation, you are able to, once you have entered all the information, and you can even do it in the middle of the process. But if you would like to have a downloadable PDF version of your project, all the information that you have inserted into MASAR, you will just need to go to Projects, again, click on the drop-down menu, and click Download PDF. And it may seem like nothing is happening once you have clicked it, but just give it a couple of minutes, as MASAR, basically what it does is trying to put all the information and gather it all into one PDF version. So eventually it should pop up as a downloaded. There you go. Right, so once you click on that, you'll see you have a clean version of your, so you have a clean version of your project, and the same, going through the same steps. As you can see, all the information that we put in MASAR is also displayed here. And of course, you can use this. You can always attach it as an annex to your reporting, or you can also, distribute this during a presentation. You can use it in any way possible. Just making sure that you have it all written out on the PDF version, so that you don't have to copy paste everything, or by hand, basically from MASAR app. Now, while you're going through the PDF version, you realize that there is something missing, you can always delete this version, go back to your project, edit it, make sure you save everything, refresh, and then go through the same process of downloading the PDF version. And I think that brings me to an end of my presentation. So thank you very much, Sarah.